Tonight, we tell the story of something small. Something forgotten. Something that watched from the corner of the room when no one else did. This is the story of a doll. Not just a toy, but a doorway. Based on true accounts, whispered through decades of unease, we invite you to step quietly into the legend of Annabelle. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let your breath slow. And listen. Because sometimes, the quietest things are the ones that never leave. I still remember the day I received the doll. Not because it was strange, not at first, but because of how ordinary it seemed. It was a warm spring morning in 1971, and our apartment smelled like toast and hairspray. I had just turned 24. My roommate, Angie, had made breakfast and left a small gift wrapped in tissue paper on the kitchen table beside a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. "For you," she said, chewing on a pencil, studying her nursing notes. "It's dumb. But I saw it in a shop and thought it looked like something you'd have as a kid." She was right. It did. It was a Raggedy Ann doll, old, but not unpleasant. Her red yarn hair was frayed at the tips, and her face, hand-stitched with thick black thread, had begun to pull into a slight, permanent smirk. One of her button eyes was chipped. But she smelled faintly of cedar and lavender, like an attic with sunlight in it. I laughed. "She's kind of perfect." We didn't think much of it. Angie named her Annabelle, and we put her on the little rocking chair beside the bookshelf. That was where she sat, propped up neatly, one arm slightly crooked, her legs stiff and straight. At first, she stayed there. But then, she didn't. The first time I noticed something was different, I was alone. Angie had left early for her hospital rotation, and I was getting ready for class. I had dropped my stethoscope and bent down to pick it up, and when I stood, I could swear Annabelle's head was tilted slightly to the left. I paused. Tilted my own head, too. I thought maybe I was just tired. Maybe Angie had bumped her while dusting. Maybe I was imagining it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Later that week, I came home to find her lying face down on the hallway floor. Angie swore she hadn't moved her. We laughed. Nervous laughter, the kind that fills a room so you don't feel how quiet it really is. I stood Annabelle up, brushed her little dress straight, and placed her back in the chair. But something had changed. We started finding her in different rooms. On the couch. In the kitchen. Once, curled up beside my pillow, arms folded neatly across her chest. Angie accused me of playing tricks. I accused her right back. But neither of us admitted to moving her. Eventually, we chalked it up to memory lapses or long shifts, told ourselves it was stress or sleep deprivation. But I started locking the bedroom door at night. A few days later, a piece of paper appeared on my desk. It was yellowed, torn from the corner of an old notebook, and folded once. I opened it slowly. Inside, written in red crayon, were 3 words. "Help Lou, please." I stared at it. My hands went cold. Lou was Angie's boyfriend. He stayed over sometimes, helped fix things around the apartment. I didn't like him much. He was loud, always tapping his fingers, always watching the doll like it owed him something. When I showed Angie the note, her face went pale. She didn't say anything for a long time. "I didn't write that," she whispered. Neither did I. We burned the paper in the kitchen sink that night. The smell lingered, something bitter and old, like burnt cotton. We decided to put Annabelle away. Just in case. Angie placed her in a cardboard box and taped it shut. She left it in the front closet, behind an old suitcase and some winter coats. But the next morning, when I stepped into the kitchen, she was back in the rocking chair. Her head tilted. That same stitched smile curling a little wider. That morning, I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't speak. I just stood there in the kitchen doorway, watching Annabelle rock slightly in her chair, as if she had just been set down. Her arms had been repositioned. Not resting in her lap this time, but outstretched, palms up. As if she were waiting. Angie woke up to find me staring. "I swear I closed that closet last night," she said, rubbing her eyes. "I taped it shut." I didn't respond. I was afraid that if I looked away from the doll, she might shift again. Lou came over that evening. Angie told him everything. About the note. About the chair. About the box and the closet. He laughed at us. He always laughed, but this time it was different. Lou wasn't the kind of person who believed in the supernatural. He believed in pipes knocking in the walls and cold drafts and faulty wiring. And if something couldn't be explained, he'd find a way to mock it out of existence. "She's just a doll," he said, picking Annabelle up by the waist and holding her out like a toddler who needed changing. "It's cloth and stuffing. No wires, no nothing." "Put her down," I said. He didn't. He stared into her face for a long moment, longer than he needed to. Then he smirked and set her gently back into the rocking chair, patting her head. "You girls are scaring yourselves." That night, I dreamed of Red Crayon. I was standing in the hallway of our apartment, but the walls were taller, stretched and wrong, like the inside of a tunnel. All along the plaster were childlike drawings in thick red strokes, stick figures with X's for eyes, tiny houses with upside-down chimneys, words written over and over again in uneven handwriting. Lou. 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 When I woke up, there was something under my pillow. Another note. Red crayon. This one said, "Lou must go." I showed it to Angie. She went pale again, just like before. She didn't want to show Lou. But she didn't want to keep the doll anymore either. That afternoon, we took Annabelle to a church near campus. We didn't know what else to do. The priest wasn't in, but the woman at the desk let us leave the doll in the donation box. We didn't say why. We didn't sign our names. We just left her there, sitting quietly between a stack of hymnals and an old tambourine. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. But the next morning, I found the tambourine in our apartment. Just the tambourine. On our kitchen table. And underneath it. Another note. "She's mine." The tambourine sat untouched for 2 days. We didn't speak of it. Didn't move it. It was just there, on the table, a mocking little reminder that whatever game this was, we hadn't ended it. We'd only changed the rules. I tried telling myself it was a prank. Someone from the church, maybe, a cruel trick from someone who didn't believe us. But when I called the rectory, the woman who answered told me no doll had been logged into the donation bin that day. "The tambourine was mine," she added softly. "But we keep it locked in the choir room." I hung up. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 in the morning, I heard a knock. 3 taps. Slow. Deliberate. It came from the front door. Angie didn't stir. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and waited. Nothing. Then. Knock. 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 I crept down the hallway and peered through the peephole. No one was there. But there was something on the welcome mat. A single red crayon, worn down to the paper. I didn't open the door. I stood there until dawn, listening to the apartment breathe. The next morning, I asked Lou to come over again. I didn't want to, but part of me still believed he could fix this, even if I hated the way he laughed at it all. He came reluctantly, like we were dragging him into something childish. "You know," he said, "it's probably just some weirdo watching the place. You should call the cops. Or move. Would you think we were crazy if we said it was the doll?" Angie asked, arms folded. He gave her that look again. The kind of look you give someone who's about to cry in public and you don't want to deal with it. "I think if something is going on, Lou said, "it's not coming from a bunch of fabric and buttons." That night, he stayed over. Insisted on sleeping on the couch, just in case. Said he'd keep an eye out, like we were being stalked by a raccoon. Around 2 a.m., I heard the couch creak. Then I heard Lou scream. Angie and I ran into the living room. Lou was standing in the middle of the floor, pale, drenched in sweat. His shirt was torn down the front. 3 deep scratches ran from his collarbone to his stomach. I had a dream," he stammered. "I couldn't move. I saw her. She was standing at the foot of the couch, pointing at me." "Her?" Angie asked. He nodded. "The doll." We searched the apartment. Annabelle was gone. The chair was empty. The tambourine was gone too. But in Lou's hand was a folded piece of paper. He didn't remember picking it up. It said, "He shouldn't have touched me." After Lou was attacked, he refused to come back to the apartment. He didn't even wait for us to finish packing his things, just stood in the hallway, arms crossed, while Angie handed him a paper bag with his toothbrush and 2 shirts inside. "You both need help," he said before slamming the door behind him. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. I kept thinking about the scratches, about the look in Lou's eyes. He'd been smug before. Confident. Rational. But when we found him, he looked like a man who'd been hunted in his sleep. I didn't want to sleep anymore. Angie made tea. We sat cross-legged on the floor like kids afraid of the dark, trying to pretend the chair in the corner wasn't empty, that something wasn't supposed to be sitting there. "We need to talk to someone," I whispered. "Not a priest. Someone who understands this." Angie hesitated, then pulled out a card from her wallet. She came to the hospital once. Visited a patient on the 6th floor. Said she was a medium, offered readings to the staff for free. She met my eyes. I took one. She dialed the number. The woman answered on the first ring. Her name was Maria Leone, and her voice was soft but cold, like hands on damp bed sheets. When she arrived the next morning, she brought no bags, no candles, no incense. Just a silver ring, a black notebook, and a strange, stale smell that followed her into the apartment. "I felt it before I got to your floor," she said. "You've invited something here." "We didn't invite anything," I said. She looked toward the empty chair. "You did. You just didn't mean to." Maria asked for something the spirit had touched. Angie retrieved one of the notes, the one with, "He shouldn't have touched me," scribbled in red crayon. Maria ran a single fingertip across the paper and closed her eyes. She didn't speak for almost a full minute. Then, "It's not a child," she said. We looked at each other. "What do you mean?" Angie asked. Maria opened her eyes. "The spirit pretending to live in this doll, it masquerades as a child. That's the lure. That's how it gets close. But what it really is," she paused, "is older. Hungry." We didn't know what to say. "She was never just a toy," Maria continued. "You gave it permission the moment you spoke to it. The moment you believed. These things, they live in belief." She stood and walked to the rocking chair. "She's watching you still," Maria whispered. "Not from the chair, but through it. This apartment is her vessel now." She turned to us. "You need to have her removed. Contained." "How?" I asked, my voice small. "I know people," she said. "But once she's gone, you cannot call her back. No remembering. No stories. No names spoken in the dark." She wrote a name and number on the back of her card and handed it to me. "Call them. Today." And then, without another word, she left. The apartment felt heavier after she was gone. The shadows longer. I stared at the empty rocking chair and felt, for the first time, like someone was sitting in my spot. That night, as I reached to turn off the hallway light, I saw something drawn on the wall in red crayon. It was a stick figure. Long hair. X's for eyes. Arms outstretched, holding something round in her lap. The name Maria gave us was Father Marcus Varela. He wasn't local, his number traced back to a parish outside Hartford, the kind of place with gravel roads and faded signs. When I called, he picked up after only one ring, like he'd been waiting for it. "You have something that does not belong to you," he said. I didn't tell him how it started. I didn't need to. He spoke like someone who'd heard the story before, maybe too many times. "I'll come tomorrow," he said. "Do not try to move her. Do not speak to her. And do not leave the apartment unattended." Before he arrived, we moved every mirror out of the apartment. Angie insisted. She said the reflections made her nervous, that she saw things behind her that weren't there. I understood. Every time I passed the empty rocking chair, I imagined it moving. Just slightly. Just enough. Father Varela came alone, carrying a heavy black case and a rosary carved from dark wood. He walked the apartment slowly, saying nothing, pressing his hand to the walls like he was listening for something. Finally, he stopped in front of the rocking chair. "She's not here," he said. "But she's close." He set the case on our kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a small wooden box, lined with silver filigree and etched with Latin prayers. "This is a containment vessel. Blessed. Sealed. Once she's inside, the bond is broken." Angie and I didn't ask what would happen if it didn't work. He took out a vial of holy water, a thick piece of cloth, and a small crucifix. Then he asked for silence. What followed was not an exorcism, not the shouting, flailing ritual you see in movies, but something quieter. Measured. Sad. Father Varela knelt beside the chair, muttering prayers under his breath in Latin, sprinkling holy water in a circle around the floorboards. He folded the cloth gently and placed it on the seat. We watched. We waited. Then. The lights flickered. The room dropped in temperature. Something moved in the hallway, fast. Too fast. The door to my bedroom slammed shut. Angie screamed. Father Varela stood, held the crucifix out before him, and walked slowly toward the closed door. Behind it, something knocked. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then silence. He opened the door. Annabelle was sitting on my bed. Arms out. Legs straight. That crooked smile on her face. He didn't speak to her. Didn't look her in the eyes. He wrapped her in the cloth, placed her in the silver-lined box, and sealed the latch with a small iron key. Immediately, the air felt lighter. The shadows faded. We watched him carry the box out of our apartment like it was filled with live wires. He didn't tell us where he was taking her. Only that she would be watched. Protected. Some things, he said at the door, should never have been made. We nodded. He left. That night, the apartment was quiet. No knocks. No dreams. No red crayon. But just before bed, I opened the kitchen drawer to get a lighter for a candle. Inside was a single button. Red. Chipped. Just like the one from her eye. 2 months passed. The apartment felt normal. For the first time in what felt like forever. The nights were silent. The rocking chair never moved. No more crayon drawings. No more scratches. No more notes. But peace, I've learned, isn't the same as safety. One night, while scrolling through videos online, I stumbled across a documentary about cursed objects. At first, it was background noise, faded voiceovers, shaky reenactments, but then I heard it. A name. Annabelle. I sat up. The camera panned across a dimly lit room. A museum of sorts, cluttered, claustrophobic. Glass cases held strange artifacts, a broken mirror, a rusted music box, a yellowed wedding dress. And in the far right corner, a glass cabinet, sealed with a lock, a strip of white tape across the front that read in bold red letters. Warning, positively do not open. Inside the case was a doll. She looked older. More fragile. But I knew it was her. Annabelle. I watched as the host interviewed a man with tired eyes and a rosary around his wrist. He spoke of containment. Of rituals. Of how spirits sometimes anchor themselves to objects like barnacles to a ship. It's not the doll itself, he said, but the invitation it represents. The vessel becomes a calling card. The museum was real. In Connecticut. Angie didn't want to go. But I couldn't leave it alone. I needed to see it. Just once. So we went. The building was colder than I expected. Not in temperature, but in feeling. The kind of place where sound doesn't carry quite right, where the walls feel like they're listening. A woman greeted us at the door and led us through the exhibits. She didn't name everything. She didn't need to. The objects spoke for themselves. When we reached the case with Annabelle, I stopped. There she was. Sitting behind the glass. Arms limp, eyes blank, mouth stitched into that same eternal smirk. I didn't move. I didn't speak. But I felt it. Like a thread pulling in my chest. A weight in my stomach. She was still watching me. The tour guide glanced at me. Some say she calls out to people, she whispered. Especially ones she's known before. Angie tugged my sleeve. Let's go, she said. Now. That night, back at the apartment, I found something at our front door. It wasn't a note. It wasn't a button. It was a Polaroid. Of me. Standing in front of the glass case. Looking straight into the doll's eyes. I never took that photo. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with the Polaroid on the nightstand, turned face down, as if that might make it less real. Angie was silent beside me, but I knew she was awake. I could feel her breathing, too still, too careful. Around 3 a.m., I finally drifted off. I found myself back in the museum. But it was empty this time. No lights, no guide, just the hum of something electrical deep within the walls. I walked the exhibits slowly, but everything was gone. Everything except her. The glass cabinet stood alone, lit from within by a pale, flickering bulb. Annabelle sat inside. She looked different. Her face seemed newer. Less worn, more lifelike. Her eyes weren't buttons anymore. They were round and glassy, like a taxidermy animal, too wet. Too wide. She was smiling. But her lips were no longer stitched. They moved. You remember me. The voice wasn't a whisper. It wasn't even feminine. It was layered, like hearing a child, a woman, and something ancient all at once. I tried to run, but my legs didn't move. The glass between us disappeared. The case opened without a sound. She stepped out. Not walked, stepped. Her legs moved like fabric under tension, folding and snapping with too many joints. She reached for me. And that's when I woke up. My hands were cold. My neck was wet. Sweat, I told myself. But when I turned on the bedside lamp, I saw red crayon marks on my pillow. They spelled one word. Stay. Angie was already awake, staring at the ceiling. I had a dream, she said, voice flat. I was in the museum. She got out. I didn't answer. I just turned the pillow around and pulled the blanket tighter. The next morning, we found something under the rocking chair. A Polaroid. A new one. It showed Angie this time. Asleep. In our bed. Taken from inside the room. That's when we knew, she wasn't in the doll anymore. She never was. The doll was just the key. Now that the door had been opened, something else was already inside. We tried to be logical. We told ourselves we were sleepwalking. Misplacing things. Dreaming the same dreams because we talked too much about her. But deep down, we knew. It wasn't over. And it wouldn't be, not while we stayed here. We packed the next morning. No sorting. No folding. Just stuffed bags until the drawers were empty. We left the rocking chair behind. Left the stained walls, the crayon-scratched doorframe, and the shadows that never seemed to match our movements. We moved to a different city. Different state. A third-floor apartment in a new building with new locks and a view of a dog park. We didn't tell anyone where we went. At first, everything was quiet. No knocks. No dreams. We let ourselves believe the chapter was closed. Then, one evening, I opened a drawer in the kitchen. Inside was a button. Red. Chipped. Familiar. I stared at it for a long time before closing the drawer again. I didn't tell Angie. That night, as I was brushing my teeth, the bathroom mirror fogged up, and I saw a word scrawled into the steam. Remember. The lights flickered. Not all at once. Just the lamp in the corner. Just enough to make me turn my head. The rocking chair. We never brought it. But there it was. Empty. Waiting. I don't remember falling asleep that night, but I remember waking up. Polaroids were spread across the floor, dozens of them. Angie sleeping. Me at the mirror. Our bedroom. The hallway. The inside of our closet. And one photo turned face down in the center of the pile. I picked it up. It was Annabelle. Not the doll, her. A face blurred by movement. A long dress. Dark hair hanging in front of her eyes. Her smile not stitched this time, but wide and wet and wrong. The timestamp on the photo? It was taken at 2:38 a.m. Same time I woke up. We left the apartment the next day. We keep moving now. Never in one place too long. No mail. No mirrors. I stopped saying her name. I don't even think it anymore. But every so often, when the night is too quiet, or when a chair creaks in a room we aren't in, we feel her again. The thing that wore the doll like a skin. The thing we invited by believing. The thing that never left. She was only a doll. Until we gave her meaning. Until we gave her a name. And names, once spoken aloud, can echo for a very long time. If you're still awake, thank you for listening. If you're asleep, maybe keep the closet door closed. New stories arrive every night. And every one of them begins the same way. With something that shouldn't move. But does. Good night.